Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about laser tag, teen crushes, and a mini menace who took the game way too seriously. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Laser tag arena turned into a live-action boss battle, Karen edition. So when I was in high school, a friend, my crush, LOL, and I got really into laser tag. Inspired by the hit TV show How I Met Your Mother, we wanted to be the Barney and Robin of the local laser tag place. So as I'm running around kicking laser butt, I actually suck so bad at laser tag, this kid was getting on everyone's nerves. He'd chase right behind you and keep shooting you until he got bored and moved on to his next target. A note, at this place you wore a vest with sensors, and when you got shot, all the lights would flash red, and your blaster wouldn't work for about 5 seconds. So this kid would just keep pulling the trigger. I swear, that's not weird. Gamers, please understand. And never let you shoot back, because the moment your vest turned on again, he'd shoot you. The staff couldn't do much about it, so that sucked. But basically, after a bit, I got annoyed, and when he stepped around a corner, I got in front of him so he was trapped. He kept telling me to move, but since he was being a brat, I said no. After about 5 minutes, he decided he was over it and tried to punch me. Even though I was like 5 to 8 years older than him, any violence stresses me out, so I just put my hands out to stop him. But when I did, his fist hit my hand, and it kind of looked like I caught his punch. According to my laser partner, he got scared and I let him go, and we finished the game. When everyone walked out, a lady approached me and looked pissed. She started accusing me of hitting her kid and whatnot and said I was going to get fired. That was odd, but I could see where she might have thought I worked there because the workers wore red staff shirts and I had a red shirt from a swim meet I participated in. Anyway, she then got the actual staff to bring a manager around and started demanding I get sent home and fired. The manager responded, "Well, I was actually watching the cameras that view the arena, and your son was the one who threw the only punch." She then turned to her son and asked him, and when he gave a weird non-answer, she took him and left pretty quickly. Thankfully, nothing too bad happened, and the staff let us play another game for free. I still lost. Call of Duty is way easier than the warscape that is laser tag. At least that mom realized her son was the a-hole in the situation and took him away instead of defending his horrible attitude. Wonder what would have happened if the manager mentioned how him trying to punch you is attempted assault and that they had the evidence proving it. And our second story. When you know the store so well, customers think you're the manager. For my first job, I, 18-year-old female at the time, worked in the electronics section at Sears. The dress code consisted of a dark blue polo shirt and khaki pants. I've been mistaken for an employee multiple times in various stores since, and thankfully every time has been pleasant overall. However, the first time I was ever mistaken for an employee really stuck with me. A friend of mine was moving into her first apartment and asked me, on my day off, to help her buy the items she needed. As she didn't have her own car at that time, we drove around a bit before we ended up at Sears because I could get her a discount and I knew the store layout like the back of my hand. I was wearing a bright yellow and black paisley print blouse, skinny jeans, and heeled black boots. Very much not the dress code. Even if it had been, my store had 2 stories, clothing items downstairs and appliances, mattresses, electronics, and auto upstairs. The point of this is that no employee on the second floor in their right mind would wear what I was wearing to haul around heavy merchandise. So back to the story. My friend and I were upstairs looking at small appliances, microwaves, coffee makers, etc. I was going more in-depth than I probably needed to about which items to get and why, what complaints I'd heard, which items get returned more, which brands have higher reviews or better customer service if she needs to contact them, and so on. I wanted to make sure whatever we got, she would enjoy it and it wouldn't come back to bite me. About halfway through my rant, I realized 2 much older women had been following us through the section. I turned to let them know that if they needed help, the appliance desk was just a couple seconds walk down the aisle and that someone was always there. They said they were fine, but continued to hover around us. At this point, I was starting to feel unsettled. My mom had loved showing me articles about young teens being taken off the street as a way to keep me from trying to go wild during my teenage years. So this whole situation had me on edge, especially since the small appliances section though part of the appliance section was separated by a wall and no one on shift could see us being followed. We picked a coffee maker and were jokingly debating if she needed anything else. Honestly, I can't remember what it was. Maybe a waffle iron? As I looked back, I noticed she subtly nodded her head toward the way we had come, and I turned to see the two women still following us. I told them again that if they needed help, they could go to the appliance desk, and I even had to look down at my outfit when they assured me that no one else in my section would be as helpful as I was. At this point, I quickly tried to explain that I technically work there, but I work in electronics and I wasn't on the clock. One of the women still sweetly insisted that it was no trouble and that they'd wait for me. The other woman seemed horrified and immediately apologized, dragging her friend away. To me, it sounds like they overheard you going into all that detail about different appliances and decided to listen in to see what's good and what's bad. Hence the one woman saying she thinks you'd be more helpful. And our last story. I'm a police detective. I never believed the ocean could heal wounds, but in the 90s it did just that. After a brutal divorce, I packed 2 suitcases, a few boxes of books, my work notebook, and moved into a small cottage on the Atlantic coast. My grandmother's inheritance. She'd been a fairly well-known author in her time and bought the place back in the 60s when the shore was cheap, storm shutters were a must, and neighbors knew each other by name, not by HOA rules. The deck smelled of salt, sand slipped between the planks, and at night the waves rustled so evenly it sounded like someone flipping pages in the next room. The town didn't exist on tourist maps, just another sandy strip of Florida lined with palms, a road running along the ocean, and beach cottages nestled against the dunes. I came looking for peace, and I got it, along with privacy. A private path to the water, a private pier, a private sunrise every morning. I'd get up at dawn, make coffee on the old stove, and jot down thoughts. Not for a novel, just to keep my head quiet. At work, I was a detective in our own county. Not a newspaper hero, not a movie cop, just a guy with a notebook, patience, and a good ear. In and out of uniform, I kept to myself. To my neighbors, I was just Quiet Dan, the guy who always said hello and picked up stray plastic cups from the sand after storms. But silence is a currency not everyone values. A few lots down lived a strange pocket of suburban civilization, a gated cul-de-sac with flower beds and brightly colored info boards. That's where Karen lived, president of the local HOA. Tight bun, heels like mangrove thorns, and a voice that could shout over even the surf. There were stories about her, how she supposedly tried to poison her own mother with crushed nuts at a family dinner, knowing about her allergy. The will, they say, went to her brother. Then came the infamous pool incident. A neighbor refused to wear a decent swimsuit, so Karen allegedly trespassed and dumped chemicals into her pool, causing mild burns. A teen had photo proof. She got fined. After that, she went quiet. For a while, but she never gave up. Technology in the 90s was simpler. A landline with a spiral cord, an answering machine with a cassette, a cheap camcorder I used to film fish jumping waves, and a pager that sometimes beeped on Sundays when the shift needed advice. One summer day, that pager buzzed, not from colleagues, but like a warning. Pickup trucks rolled in from Karen's HOA, black, white, with college stickers, full of beer, kegs, folding tables, speakers, and gift bags. A sign at their gate read, "Class of 95 graduation." The air smelled of spice, and the ocean was suspiciously calm, like nature itself was in on it. When Karen first knocked on my door, she looked at the cottage like she'd bought it at a clearance sale and was deciding where to place the bar. She didn't introduce herself, just laid a folder on the table under my awning and said, "This is a notice from the HOA. We have the right to use any shoreline home within half a mile for community events as per our community charter, ratified by the city in 1989. She said it in a tone of a teacher explaining why 2 + 2 isn't 5. "You've got the wrong address," I said, voice even. "My house isn't in your community. Never was. I bought it outright, title and all, and bought it before your HOA existed." I nodded at the wooden private property sign I'd carved myself. So, no. She frowned like I'd broken her personal view of reality and spoke even colder. "This isn't a request, Dan. Think of it like a tax. You want good relations with your neighbors, don't you? Our kids are celebrating a major milestone. Just a few hours. We'll clean up." "No," I repeated. "Respect begins with a no. Abuse begins with a yes." Even the waves seemed to hush. Karen gathered her papers. They crackled like dry reeds in her grip and left. I figured that was it. In the 90s, conflicts often melted away in the evening heat like gasoline on pavement. A flash, then gone. But by midday the next day, I heard what I feared and expected, the scrape of metal. Someone trying to break the padlock on the gate leading to my beach path. I stepped outside and saw him. Early 20s, tan, college wristband, white tennis shoes sinking into the sand like cake frosting. Karen's son. Behind him, a whole troop of loud young adults dragging kegs, setting up tables, unpacking plastic cups. Someone had fired up a speaker, and now the waves had to compete with 90s hip-hop. "Private beat," someone shouted. Yes, but not theirs. "Stop," I said loudly. "This is private property. You're trespassing. Leave now and take your stuff." "Mom said it's fine." The kid waved me off, crowbar in hand. "HOA booked it. We're on the list." "You're on another list," I said, "the criminal one." I stepped back to avoid escalation, glanced at my pager, no messages. I went inside, called dispatch from the landline, and identified myself. The dispatcher knew me. I gave a brief: off-duty officer, trespassing, attempted break-in, and likely unregulated alcohol. "Copy that," she said. "Unit ETA, 20 minutes. I set my camcorder on a tripod under the awning and hit record, not out of distrust for the police, but because I trust video more. By the time the first keg hissed open and the cups filled, Karen's son had already cracked the lock. He pulled open the gate and we faced each other. "I don't like being yelled at in my own home," I said calmly. "You don't belong here." "Relax," he laughed, a sharp metallic laugh. "This is an official HOA event. And I'm officially telling you the patrol will be here in 1 minute. Step away." He didn't. He bolted down the path onto a rotting, half-forgotten gallery deck next to my property. Built decades ago, it was barely holding together. He jumped on it, and it collapsed, both legs falling through up to his knees. He screamed like a seagull tangled in a fishing net, thrashing helplessly. The music kept bumping. The girls kept laughing, but their laughter caught, hung midair like a wave hitting rock. Someone yelled, "Justin, are you okay?" Soon they all gathered. I approached slowly, badge out, not out of excitement, but protocol. Anyone holding a keg is a risk. I told the crowd to step back, told the kid not to move. Help was coming. Sirens wailed from the road. Patrol units rolled in, kicking up dust. Then came the real procedure. First, safety. One officer tended to the kid, another secured the property, third activated his body cam. Someone tried hiding the kegs behind a dune. Didn't work. Someone buried the crowbar. We found it. 5 minutes later, Karen's son sat on the sand, scratches on his ankle, handcuffed, face red as a nuclear sunset. Then she arrived. Her Volvo shot in like a seagull to breadcrumbs. She jumped out, heels sinking in the sand, and started shouting, "This is an official HOA event," she barked at the officer, waving papers. "Ma'am," I said, now in uniform. I'd grabbed my blue shirt from inside. "You're on private property. Your son just trespassed and broke a lock. We have video, witnesses, and evidence. You're interfering with a police operation." She looked at me like a stage actress whose script just got rewritten mid-performance. Offense, confusion, and a hint of fear. "Dan?" she asked. "You're the neighbor?" "Detective, ma'am," I replied, "in this county. And your HOA rights stop where my property line starts." I tapped the sign. "Right now it looks like you incited a crime." She waved her documents, bylaws signed by someone with a title but no jurisdiction. But state law isn't printed on HOA handouts. Officers were polite but firm. They checked her ID, asked her to step back. The kids quietly vanished like steam off hot kegs. When they led her son to the cruiser, she lunged. They blocked her. Not harshly, just professionally. The outcome. Karen's son got a suspended sentence in community service, cleaning the beach in a vest. Every morning at 6, he showed up with a trash bag and eyes cast down. The former party king now silently picked up cups, cigarette butts, and chip wrappers. His old friends never came by. One day he walked up to my porch holding a rusty crowbar, the same one he used to break the lock. "Found it in the sand," he said quietly. "Wanted to return it." I took it without a word and nodded. No lecture, no smugness. That was enough. Next morning he cleaned not just his assigned stretch, but kept going, past the line where there had never been trash. I wanted to share this story after all these years. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.